Let's analyze this. So, WWE Hall of Famer and former 6-time World Heavyweight Champion in both WCW and the WWE, Booker T, recently in his podcast that holds the Reality of Wrestling channel on YouTube, his company in Houston, his little promotion that he has in Houston, he recently just gave his thoughts on the upcoming release of current WWE star and former world champion Dean Ambrose. So he's going to give his thoughts. Let's see what he has to say.
But guys, we're talking about wrestling. We're talking about guys leaving the nest. We're talking about Dean Ambrose.
Let me just say something real quick before Booker continues. This has to be the first time in, I believe, nearly 3 years where we've had a mass exodus of talent. I mean, not saying we're having a mass exodus of talent in the WWE right now and over the next several months. So far, Dean Ambrose is leaving, and Hideo Itami, as of this recording, is rumored to be leaving. It has been said that he will be granted his release. It hasn't been confirmed whether or not he actually has been granted his release. One of you peeps can correct me if I'm wrong down below. But so far it's him and Dean Ambrose who are currently set to leave the WWE. Dean, his contract doesn't come up until after WrestleMania. I believe Hideo, I think he might have actually been released at this point. I'm not sure. But Dean is set to leave after WrestleMania, and I'd say why not? Why not leave? I do see him coming back eventually. He's gonna have that Drew McIntyre, Jinder Mahal kind of effect, where he's gone for a couple of years, makes a huge impact elsewhere. No pun intended. This is not me saying that he might go to Impact. I'm literally just saying he may have an impact elsewhere, and he's gonna get super mega over. WWE is gonna look at him again and be like, wow, we fucked up the first time, which I don't think they fucked up the first time. There were a lot of components as to why Dean Ambrose has been underwhelming, at least over the last 2 years. It's mostly creative, because they've been so on and off, in and out with him, which you can't do that with everybody. It only works for some people. Like, I think a big example of that working for someone was Chris Jericho in the 2000s. You look at his run between 2000 and 2005, his run in the WWE. He was pretty much, they bounced him up and down the card constantly. One minute he'd be in the main event, he'd be the champ, going up in there with Rock and Austin and Triple H. And the next minute he's in the middle of the card, going up against Christian in a ladder match for the IC title, constantly winning the IC title. And then they would bring him back up, and then they bring him back down. Like, they've done that with several wrestlers in the past, but I think Jericho has been the most effective. It's worked the most with him. So it doesn't usually work out for everybody. Well, then again, you also got to take into consideration the fact that social media wasn't as heavy as it is now. I think that if social media was as prominent now, if social media was as prominent back then as it is now, people would probably be complaining about Jericho going up and down the card. But Dean, me personally, and I've said this in my other videos, Dean's style, the way he wrestles and the matches he's had throughout the years, I've never had a problem with it. I like his style. His style is an old school type of style. And isn't it crazy and kind of ironic that his style does not get criticized, but Shayna Baszler style does. I mean, it's not that far off. The only difference between the two is that Dean, he comes off the top rope and he does his suicide dives. He'll dive and he'll be a little bit of a high flyer every now and then. It's the only difference. Other than that, there's really no difference between the two, in my view. But Dean, I never found him to be insanely charismatic as people have liked to portray him to be. I never understood from day one, I never understood the comparisons between Roddy Piper and Brian Pillman. That shit never made any sense to me at all whatsoever. When people were telling me he's a combination of both, you put him in a blender, you get Dean Ambrose, I never saw that. Even back to his Jon Moxley days, I never saw that. To me, I found him to be sometimes boring, having a monotonous Randy Orton-like tone to his voice, and robotic. Now, you may say, well, K-Fab Chronicles, you sound robotic when you talk sometimes in when you cover these videos. Well, I'm not a performer like Dean Ambrose is. I'm not a wrestler like Dean Ambrose is right now. I'm not doing this in front of a worldwide audience on TV every week. That's the difference. And I have a reason for my tone. I don't talk like this all day, every day when you're around me. I just talk like this for the sake of the videos. This isn't my real natural voice. So, you know, in terms of his promo skills, I'm not saying he's bad on the mic, and I'm not saying he's extremely boring like Randy Orton, but you put Dean out there for about 15 to 20 minutes to cut a promo, I wouldn't be able to handle it. That's just me.
Breaking news out this week that Dean Ambrose will be leaving the company in April after WrestleMania. I don't know if the rumors are 100% true or anything.
I stand by my gut feeling that I felt when I first found out the news. I first found out on Twitter, so I believe it's a work as of right now. And the biggest reason why I believe is a work is because literally Ring of Honor and WWE, well, you can't really say Ring of Honor because Ring of Honor did it. They made it into a storyline, but his contract was still expiring, and I think he only re-signed for about 2 more months. And then the 2 months came up. He dropped the title to Austin Aries, I believe, and then he left. And I'm talking about CM Punk. Was it Austin Aries? I think it was either Austin Aries or Jamie Noble, who then was James Gibson. One of you peeps can correct me if I'm wrong about that whole situation of the original Summer of Punk that was in Ring of Honor. I'm not talking about the 2011 one in WWE, even though I was about to start talking about that one too. But it was the same situation with CM Punk where his contract was set to expire, and he literally, and he could tell you this himself, this isn't me giving my opinion, this is facts. He did not re-sign with the company until the day of Money in the Bank. I believe he didn't re-sign until about 2 hours before the pay-per-view began. It was like 2 or 3 hours before the pay-per-view began, in which CM Punk officially re-signed his contract with the WWE back in 2011. He signed to a 3-year deal. And sadly, he wasn't able to finish out that 3-year deal because he ended up walking out before his contract came up. And then he officially got fired in June of 2014. So the thing has happened. It's happened with him. You know, in a way, you could say it kind of happened to Brock Lesnar, where when they were doing that stupid ass tout back in 2012, where Brock broke Triple H's arm and then said he quit and he had conquered everything there was to conquer in the WWE. You know, they had the video with Paul Heyman talking about it, and you know, they were just doing that just to keep Brock off TV until they were ready to do, you know, him and Triple H for SummerSlam in 2012. And plus, also, the reason why I believe it's a work is because WWE, they've never announced someone's departure so early. This is the earliest they've ever announced somebody's departure from the company. It has never happened this early. You know how many months we got left until Dean's contract actually expires? I mean, come on. You know, we got another, what, 2.5 months? So, just all of those things is very suspicious. Very suspicious.
Like that, but from the publications, I've seen it. It seems like it's fact.
Yeah, no, WWE confirmed it.
If it is fact, which it's starting to seem like it is in a way, even though I'm still gonna hold on to the belief that it's a work. If it is factual, I'm not gonna complain. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter and just all over social media just bitching about the whole situation. Which, I mean, it's one thing to be upset and disappointed, but it's another thing to just bitch and complain about it. Like, this isn't the end. Dean Ambrose will be back in the WWE. He will. It may be a while, but I firmly believe he'll come back. I know that we didn't necessarily believe that when they let Drew McIntyre go, or when they let Jinder Mahal go, or even when they let Kurt Hawkins go. We might have not believed that those guys would come back, but look what happened. They came back. It was almost at one point where we didn't believe Kurt Angle would come back, and look what happened last year. Or not last year, in 2017. I keep thinking it's 2018. But anyway, yeah, and I think the best part about this whole situation is that Dean is still in his prime. Still in his prime. He's about halfway through. He's about midway through, near the end. He's coming up on the tail end, but he is still very much capable in the ring. And the only serious injury he suffered was the tricep injury. So I think he will be fine, and he will be back eventually.
Came out on their website and confirmed that he's leaving after his April expiration date.
But WWE is known for
throwing a swerve. Is that what you're saying?
Curveball here,
Exactly.
curveball there. You know what I mean? You'll mill there. That's the way it goes. Could it be? Could it be one of those things? Could it be one of those things?
I mean, it's always possible, but let's accept it as fact.
Okay.
What do you think about Dean Ambrose leaving the company?
Let me just add on to this before Booker continues. WWE doesn't lose. They don't lose losing Dean Ambrose. They do not. With all due respect, I appreciate and I respect Dean Ambrose. Never had anything against him. Nothing personally or what he's been for the last several years as a performer. Nothing against the man. But WWE, they have like a million other talented wrestlers on that roster, combining all 5 brands. What do they have? 5 brands. They have Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, NXT UK. They got 5 brands. WWE is not hurting for talent. They're nowhere near hurting for talent whatsoever. They have a shitload of talent. And to be quite frank, I know it's going to piss some people off, but there are a lot of guys, especially down in NXT and NXT UK, that are better than Dean Ambrose and younger. A lot of people are not going to like what I'm saying when I say that, but that's the truth. It is what it is. So WWE has lost nothing. They've lost a solid workhorse that, with the exception of the tricep injury, has been the quintessential Iron Man of the WWE. Probably the first Iron Man in the WWE that we've seen since Bret Hart. Bret Hart was probably the last Iron Man that we've had in the company. where he was just making all of the shows and was not getting hurt and was having great to classic matches and just being the absolute best pure wrestler in the world. So,
Man,
This guy was a WWE champion, main eventer.
yeah, he was WWE champion about a year and a half to almost 2 years too late. And it's a shame. I think that they should have turned him heel when he was feuding with AJ Styles. They should have had a double turn. Because when they turned to AJ, they only turned to AJ for the sake of feuding with Cena. And to me, that was stupid, because when Cena and AJ Styles feuded in 2016 and a little bit of 17, that literally should have been this generation's Hogan versus Warrior, where both men were baby faces and the fans were just 50-50 split and indecisive on who they wanted to win, even though everybody was going to go for AJ. But in terms of narrative, in terms of WWE narrative, they could have given that Hogan... Now, Hogan and Warrior was legitimately 50-50. It was legitimately 50-50. So they weren't going to completely duplicate that with the hate that Cena's gotten over the years. And at this point, fans just like to boo him. So they could have at least put on the narrative that Cena and AJ being this generation's Hogan and Warrior. But AJ should have never turned heel to begin with. Under no circumstances in his entire WWE run AJ should have been a heel. He should have never been a heel, not one time. Dean should have turned. It should have been a double turn. Now, when we look at it, from WWE retrospective and what they ended up doing with having AJ being a heel anyway, in retrospect, they should have had Dean turn and have it be a double turn, where AJ goes back into face and Dean turns heel. Because the fans were already booing Dean when he was feuding with AJ. I don't know anybody that was honestly cheering for Dean during that feud. A lot of people turned on Dean. And I would hear it, and I would see it, So, yeah, that's what should have happened. Dean should have been a heel all the way back then as the champion. Yeah. I mean, they like I said, they gave Dean the world title a little bit too late, but it wasn't extremely too late, because he was still very over, at first at least. But the problem is that they didn't know how to book his run as champion. They had him it was a good feud with Ziggler, but it just wasn't good enough. And it wasn't hot as it could have been had it been years prior.
I tell you, man, it's big. I'm not going to sit here and try not to, make this exactly what it is. It's huge. Dean Ambrose leaving the company, to go elsewhere or just to go home, be that as it may, whatever it is.
One more thing real quick. I've heard rumors that Dean has been extremely unmotivated since Roman announced that he's battling leukemia again. Because Dean and Roman would pretty much always be on the road with each other. They would always, roll with each other on the road. They would drive together, fly together. And I think it is said that Dean says something to the degree of, I don't remember what he said. I'm not going to try to quote him word for word, because I don't remember what he said word for word. But I had read this on Twitter. I just don't remember the exact words, because it's been like 3 days since the last time I saw this. But he had said something to the effect of, I don't want to ever travel the road without one of my brothers. And he's talking about Roman and Seth. Like, those three really love each other. Those three really have a bond. And Dean, it's like I said, like I'm stating, it's been said that Dean has been completely unmotivated since Roman left.
It's huge. Dean Ambrose, a part of the Shield, one of the biggest factions, if not the biggest factions in WWE's history.
I'd say they are the biggest faction in WWE history, definitely. Now, of all time, no, because they didn't last long enough in their original run, and the constant attempts at reunions were just They were failures, and it just did not have the same feel or appeal. I still believe in my heart of hearts, even through everything that has happened in the last several years with the three, that the Shield broke up too soon. They just broke up way too soon. They should have ran for another year. Now, in retrospect, when you look back and you think about the roster and you reflect on the storylines and what have you, there was nobody else on the roster for them to feud against. They had already feuded with the Wyatts. They had already feuded with the Authority. They had already feuded with Evolution. Team Hell No. Team Hell No was pretty much done at that point. New Age Outlaws, they sent them into retirement. Well, at least one of them into retirement. Billy Gunn is still wrestling. And that's it. There were no other factions, really. They could have feuded with the New Day. Well, the New Day wasn't a thing yet when they broke up. The New Day was just beginning, the seeds were just beginning to form for the New Day when the Shield broke up. They could have held on to the Shield a little bit longer to have them feud with the New Day. That would have been interesting, cool little feud.
One with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, and I tell you,
damn, Buck, you almost forgot Roman Reigns. Where's your memory going? Are you gonna donate your brain to science when you die too, like every other wrestler that has announced that? You gonna donate your brain to CTE specialist, Buck?
To see Dean Ambrose go is not something that I want to see. But one thing about things like this, it happens all the time.
Agreed. It just hasn't happened for the WWE in a long time, but agreed.
One of my favorite of all times was, Hakeem Olajuwon. You know what I mean? When it came time for him to retire, man, I knew he was going to be gone. Charles Barkley, Michael Jordan, so many. You know what I mean? Muhammad Ali, the greatest fighter of all time. Floyd Mayweather is going to have to, step away from the game at some point in time. And
You see, you say that, but I just heard you made a comeback book. So, what does that really even mean? I agree with what you're saying, but this never applies to wrestlers. It should, but 9 times out of 10, it does not apply to wrestlers. There have only been two wrestlers who retired at the right time and actually stayed retired in wrestling history, period. That's Edge and Stone Cold. But there's an asterisk next to that because they were forced to retire. They didn't choose to retire. They were forced to. It was either retire or die in the ring, one or the other. And they went with the former as opposed to the latter. But wrestlers never really retire. That's a crock of shit. And it's sad that's the truth, but it's sad. Like I said, I never have any interest in seeing wrestlers wrestle into their 50s. I do not want to see that. Do not want to see that. Didn't want to see it with Terry Funk. Didn't want to see it with Undertaker. But sadly, I'm subjected to it. Didn't want to see it with Kane. Sadly, I'm subjected to it. Well, I could just choose not to watch, and that's what I do, but still, I have to know in the back of my mind, my subconscious, that they're still wrestling. It hurts. I don't like it. Now, wrestling into your 40s and doing it at an elite level, like a Shawn Michaels, like a Chris Jericho, like a AJ Styles, like a RVD to a lesser extent, that's fine. That's fine. But around 45, 46, something's got to give to me. I don't mind old timers wanting to take part in segments and doing little beat downs here and there to a foreign heel or what have you, like a hacksaw Jim Duggan does every now and then. But to still get in the ring into your 50s, I can't. I can't. I mean, look, free country, you do what you want, but just know I will not be interested, because I don't like seeing that. It's kind of embarrassing.
Conor McGregor, he's going to have to step away, at some point in time. Will the game stop going? No, the game ain't going to stop. The show will go on without Dean Ambrose.
Somebody needs to tell all of these wrestlers that are in their 50s that the show will go on with, but preferably without them.
And that's just a fact. That's just a fact. One man don't stop no show. That's just the way to be. I remember a guy told me that a long time ago. He didn't say it that way. I'm saying it that way. One man don't stop no show. He said a little bit different. But that's just fact. Will Dean Ambrose be missed? Of course. But sometimes, we got to look at this from a different perspective. We don't know if it's Dean Ambrose, actually, we don't know the reason why Dean Ambrose is leaving, if he's leaving.
Well, but they've stated that he feels like he is creatively stifled, that WWE has been giving him hokey storylines / gimmicks / characters, and he's not cool with that shit anymore. Even though he was hokey as shit within, I'd say, the last year of his babyface run, before he got hurt, I'm talking about, between 2016 and 2017, up until he got hurt. Remember Mitch, the potted plant? Yeah, like that shit wasn't stupid. Come on, man.
And I say that is because Dean Ambrose is at, he's at a high point in his career right now. He's in a position to make millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, high point in his career financially, definitely.
In this business right now. But I remember back in 2007, myself was at the peak and the pinnacle of my career. Okay, you were not in the peak / pinnacle of your career. Let me just say that right now. You were 41 going on 42. That's not your peak. I don't care what anybody says. 41 / 42 is not your peak. That is the end of your career. If you're not already retired, you should be thinking about retirement. That's the stage in your life where you got to think about what you're going to do after wrestling. What are you going to do outside of this to keep your spirit going or to keep making money? That's what you have to think about at that age. You were not at the peak. You were slowing down. You were slowing down. I remember when you left, Book. You were slowing down. The peak of your career, the absolute prime of your career, I would say, was somewhere around, I would say between 95 and 03. That 8-year period, you were one of the most talented wrestlers in the world. I would stretch it. I would say top 10. You were arguably top 10 of the most talented wrestlers in the world between 95
and 2003. After 03, you weren't really the same anymore. Your age was starting to show. Now, granted, I'll give Booker credit. He was still very flexible enough, charismatic enough, and still very much capable in the ring. But after 03, what match do you know? And I'm asking you, the peeps, what match do you know past 03 that Book wrestled where he went, I don't know, 18 to 20 to maybe 25 minutes in the ring? Because I don't know one. I can't name one. If you can name one, please do. I'd appreciate it, but I can't name one. By 2007, Booker T was pretty much an old man. Okay, he was. And I ain't even pay attention to most of his run in TNA because he was slow. He was just really slow in the ring. Granted, he had a lot more time off, and he was working on limited dates as opposed to a full-time schedule, which I don't fault him or TNA for that. I think that's great. But, let's be real here. Booker T, by 07, I don't think many people cared about him anymore. No offense whatsoever, but not many people took him as a top. Now, by 07, you can make the argument that he was still at the top of the card, which he was. He was still very much at the top of the card over on SmackDown. It had only been less than a year since he was World Heavyweight Champion, so he was still very much at the top of the card. But was he at the top of his game like he was between 95 and 03? Hell no. Hell no.
It was so much money there left still on the table for me to get, if I wanted to get it, But I said, man, this King Booker thing is, I can't do it no more. I'm tired. I need to go home. I need to rest. I need to get away from this machine for a minute, because it was like a meat grind. It felt like I was getting, chewed up and spit out, because I was just on the road. I was working, and I was, trying to, create my destiny and that legacy that we all, wish to have at the end of the day, But I said, I'm willing to leave it all on the table, man, just to go home and get some rest. I'm a simple man.
Rightfully so.
I could live in a cabin with a little stream going by it. Hopefully I can get some fishing in every now and then. But I'm a simple man. I don't need a whole lot. And hopefully, if I do take a step away from it, hopefully I'll be able to come back, even more fuel to go out and do the job. Could that be the reason Dean Ambrose is stepping away from it? Because
possibly.
Let's think about it. Dean Ambrose got a lot of time here. This is a guy that's got, I say 15 in, easy 15 in. That time that he did on the independent circuit, the ROH stuff that he was doing, I'm sure.
Buck, he wasn't in ROH. He was not in ROH. Seth Rollins, Cesaro, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Daniel Bryan, Hideo Itami, now known once again as Kenta, Nigel McGuinness, Cassius Ohno. I can go on and on. Those guys were in ROH. Dean was never in ROH. Then again, I could be wrong. One of you peeps could correct me, but I'm pretty sure, I'm about 99.99999% sure that Dean never wrestled for Ring of Honor. He was in CZW, but not Ring of Honor.
And then, being in the company now, what, 10 years?
I don't know if it's been that long, but he's been in.
Dean has been a part of WWE for. He got signed in 2011, so 8 years. Almost 8 years. About seven years and several months. It's been almost 8 years since Dean Ambrose signed. He signed in 2011 with FCW, and then it turned into NXT, and then he got called up to the main roster in Survivor Series with Seth and Roman.
the system for a while.
It's been close
Since
to it,
since
man.
SCW.
It's been close to it. So this guy got a lot of. I'm gonna tell you right now, his bump card has been punched.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Agreed. Dean has taken more bumps than anybody else on that roster has in the last near 8 years. Like I said, I don't know any other wrestler that has been the Iron Man up until Dean got hurt with the triceps injury since Bret Hart. Without, like, just injury, just going all of those years injury free. And I don't count the time that, what was it, in 2014, where Seth curb stomped him into the cinder blocks, and he had to take about, I think he only took about 2-3 weeks off. I don't count that because he had to film, what was that movie? I'm trying to think, what was that movie? I'm trying to go off memory. What was that movie that he did where he was the detective? I think it was Lockdown, right? Was it called Lockdown? I believe it was called Lockdown. Which that movie was okay. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. I actually recently saw it about, I think, not recently, but this past summer I saw it. I didn't like how he was barely given any dialogue. Like, when I watched the movie, I said to myself, okay, this is why he finished the movie so damn fast, because he was given virtually no dialogue. Only I'd say about 40% of the movie is him talking. And the other 60% is just action scenes, or him walking around, or him staring at somebody, or staring at something. He barely talks throughout the whole movie. It's ridiculous. It was just as bad as Tactical Force with Stone Cold. That whole movie, I swear on everything, it seemed like that movie had only one setting, and one setting only.
Many times. So it could be as simple as Dean Ambrose is looking to step away from, because, you know, he's been champion. You know, he's been in position to be, you know, world champion. I'm sure that's, you know, somewhere, you know, on the list. You know.
Look, you don't remember. Well, Booker wasn't really doing commentary then, but wasn't he the pre-show panelist during Dean Ambrose's run as champion? How does Booker not remember that he was champion? Once again, I understand that he didn't have a long run, but he had a long enough run to where you know he was champion. I mean, for crying out loud, the man, him, Roman, and Seth were all world heavyweight champion on the same night at one point in Money in the Bank 2016. Everybody remembers that, how all 3 Shield members were champion that night at some point. Roman walked in as champ, Seth beat him to get the title, and then Dean cashed in and beat Seth to get the title. How do you not remember that? Booker T was the pre-show panelist at that time. I'm pretty sure of it.
I don't know. I see this as more than what people are making it out to be.
So you think that he might just be, maybe he's just burned out and he just needs to go take a staycation?
That is most likely the answer. That's most likely the situation that he's burnt out. And if he's burnt out, I don't blame him. He could take all the time off he needs. I'd say don't take too much time off to the point where you have ring rust, but he needs the time off desperately. And what's crazy is that I've heard many wrestling pundits and podcasters say this for years, even when he was a babyface, even when he was starting to get stale. A lot of podcasters and wrestling pundits were saying maybe Dean should take time off, maybe they should write him off television. Even before he got hurt, many were saying that.
At the house in Las Vegas, relax, and maybe come back in a couple of years refreshed.
He's made a lot of money. I'm hoping he saved a big portion of it.
Pretty sure he saved it. Dean isn't the type to splurge. He's not one of those guys. He saves.
To be able to take some time off, step away from it, because you know this guy's a major player. You know he's a major player. I do not think Dean Ambrose. I'm gonna go out there on a limb. I do not think Dean Ambrose is leaving WWE to go somewhere else.
You don't think AEW is going to offer him a deal?
Well, I'm sure they're going to offer him a deal. When I love
Can we please stop talking about AEW? This shit is so nauseating now at this point. Like, I'm sorry. Don't come to me with this AEW this, AEW that bullshit. Until they run their first show, AEW means nothing to me or to the wrestling business until they have their first show. Like, seriously. I'm tired of it. Let's stop talking about AEW. AEW has not been a major factor upon the wrestling business, not yet. And they will not be until they have their first show. Their first show isn't until May. I have never seen a brand new company get this much publicity without having one show. Did this even happen when TNA started? Did this ever happen when Ring of Honor started? Did this happen when CZW started? I doubt it. Look, this isn't me trying to be a WWE elitist, okay? This isn't me trying to be, a WWE fanboy. I'm just stating out simple facts. AEW has not had their first show. They should not be getting this much publicity without having at least one show. We don't even know if they have a TV deal, and we're talking this much shit about AEW. I mean, come on now. What network are they going to be on? What type of platform are they going to be represented by? We don't even know these things yet. Can we talk about, at least, if we're going to talk about All Elite Wrestling, can we talk about those things first? The more important things first? Can we talk about the talent they're going to sign? Can we talk about what network they're going to be a part of? What type of distribution they're going to be a part of before we talk about them becoming this global juggernaut in wrestling that's going to compete and possibly surpass the WWE, which I doubt that'll happen. There was this one company named TNA, it's not even called TNA anymore, that one time tried to do the same thing and it failed miserably. So let's not try to kiss AEW's ass, okay? Let's see where it goes first. Let's be fair and unbiased and wait and see where it goes first before we start bowing down to these motherfuckers, okay? For real.
WWE, TNA offered me a deal. It was a sweet deal. To sit at home,
Man, TNA offered every WWE star a sweet deal. Kurt Angle, Christian, Booker T, Nash, Scott Hall, X-Pac. Give me a break, man.
Majority of the year, and just show up every now and then, and make some money. That was a sweet deal for me. That was like a vacation. I don't think a new company.
Of course, it was a vacation. It's TNA. Unless you were one of the TNA originals, it was a vacation, and you treated it like a vacation, book. You very much treated it like a vacation. You and the entire Main Event Mafia treated it as a vacation.
Like AEW is looking for guys to get that Roger Clemens treatment. You know what I'm saying? Well, you ain't got to practice. You just show up and throw fastballs. On game day. I don't think it's going to be like that. So, and looking into this right here, I think Dean Ambrose. I really think the guy needs some time off. This job can become very, very stressful.
Agreed. Well, isn't that the same way for every high-level job?
You can become very, very depressed doing this job. It could definitely take you on a roller coaster ride because a lot of times, he's lucky. Dean Ambrose is lucky that he's married to someone in the business. I know that's one of the reasons that I was willing to walk away from this company that I love so much. I was willing to walk away from it because when Charmel and I got married, being on the road, it was no fun at all. And then when she came on the road with me, as King Booker, it relieved a lot of that pressure that I was under. But
Wait, wasn't Charmel on the road with you before the King Booker stuff? Because one of you peeps can correct me down below. I might go back and watch his King Booker collection that they just put up on the network today. But I could have sworn Charmel was already managing him, because I remember WrestleMania 22, it was him and the Boogeyman. Yes, it was him and the Boogeyman. And Charmel came out with him. And this was about almost 3 months before the King of the Ring tournament, where he won and became King Booker. So she was already accompanying him to the ring. Not very long, but long enough. That's just nitpicky shit.
You know, when I first got married, I literally went to the office and said, I'm done. You know, Vince McMahon said, you know, why don't we hire Charmel? You know, and, you know, the King was born after that. But I tell you, this could be the best job in the world, being a WWE superstar, but it could be the hardest job in the world at the same time. So I say, Dean Ambrose, if it's for you to take a step back, you know, and the thing is, let me tell you something. He's doing it at the best time, too. Let me make that clear.
Agreed and agreed. They have 300 million other wrestlers on the roster between 5 brands and Performance Center trainees. They will be just fine without Dean for a couple of years. No doubt about it.
Everybody out there, Dean Ambrose would be stepping away at the best time that he possibly could after WrestleMania, because that's a big check.
You ain't lying about that shit.
Let's get that check first. Then we can talk about leaving.
Let's get that insurance money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's get that insurance money and then go home for a little while, rejuvenate, rejuvenate the batteries, come back, better, stronger, faster. We can rebuild him. You know what I mean?
What is he, the $6 million man? We could rebuild him. Make him faster, stronger. No, I don't think he'll be faster, because he'll be about 35, almost 36, if he comes back, when he comes back, quote unquote. So I doubt he'll be faster, but he could be stronger, a lot sharper, smarter, more refueled.
It'd be hard though for him to be out of the company, not on the road anymore, sitting at home or doing whatever he's doing, and then have still his wife out there, because she's, Renee Young, awesome on Raw commentary. She's still perceivably going to be there.
I wouldn't say awesome on Raw commentary. That's giving her a little bit too much credit.
Every single week.
Yeah, but she ain't working but a couple of days a week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's plenty of time at home, with the fam. And that's the thing too. When you get married, family. You're thinking about that. I'm sure they're probably thinking about that. You see the Miz running around with his kid. You see a lot of the other boys running around with their kids. I show up to the building, I got my little ones. He could possibly be thinking about that as well. It's so many. One thing.
I guess the point is we just don't know what he's saying.
One thing people need to realize is that the WWE superstar is a human being. He's a man just like everybody else. His feelings work just like everyone else. And for him to want to be able to take a step back from, because let me tell you a little story. When I was in the WWE, Charmel and I, we were trying to have kids. Kennedy Rose right now, Kendrick James, 8 years old. When I was in the WWE, Charmel and I, we were trying to have kids. And we just could not do it. And we tried everything, but we were on the road. That stress, that tension, that being in that position, to have to, keep running. And that was the reason we just could not conceive. We took that time and left the company, went to TNA, and we didn't work, but like I say, 60 days out of the year. Okay, 60 days out of the year. Charmel got pregnant like that. Hey, you know what I mean?
Oh my God, Booker. I love that man though. He's hilarious. To me, he's the greatest. He's the greatest African American wrestler of all time. It's not even close. Definitely the most talented and most successful. Now can you dig that, sucker? No, stop. All right.
That's some more free time.
Free time, less stress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Literally, that's what the doctor told us. You know what I mean? So for Dean Ambrose to want to be able to take a step back from this thing, man, let's not speculate on, oh man, AEW this, AEW. Come on, man. This guy's making a whole lot of money. I'm sure, like I say, he's happy with his position on the card. I just could not see Dean Ambrose being unhappy with his position on the card. We've seen guys like that wanted to be champion and wanted to be in the main event, you know, that was making a lot of money. You know what I mean? That's another story, you know, for another time.
Alright, so that was Booker T, the Hall of Famer, 6-time world champ, giving his take on Dean Ambrose possibly or maybe definitively leaving the WWE for a little while. He made some very good points, and I agree with most of his sentiment. So this was a very interesting topic, and I'm out.